Hello, welcome to the Radicals Trope Talk. I'm Michelle,
And I'm Victorine.
and today we're going to talk about the trope royalty. So, royalty is kind of fun in the modern world too. So, last week we talked
Yes.
about how forbidden love is a little trickier in the modern world, and royalty can be too, but there are plenty of great examples out there.
Yes. You could definitely make up your own country and have some royalty in your own country. A lot of authors do that.
Yeah, and you pretty much have to do a fictitious country because otherwise you're writing about real people currently existing and
Yes.
making up stories about them, and that's a no-no.
Yeah.
So making up your fictitious country is just like part of the trope.
Yep.
And I've written secret, not secret, sorry, royalty, which my book was Saved by the Prince. And that
Ah,
was fun. It was fun to just create my own little country nestled in some little corner of the world.
yeah.
That
Fun.
surprised the readers never heard of it, but it's real.
I have
Um,
never written royalty, but it's on my bucket list. I would like to
okay.
write one. That would be fun.
Yeah, it was always the creating the fake country that kind of like held me off of it.
Mhm.
But then, I just like the whole like readers want to believe it kind of thing. Like, if they're reading the trope and they love the trope, then they're ready for it. They're
Yes.
they're expecting you to be making up your own country. And you can play with it and have fun, make it silly or make it seem totally legit. Like depends on the tone of your book, but there's a lot you can do. And it's fun to come up with like traditions and cultures and castles and
Mhm.
the rules of their monarchy and all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of fun. And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago the Prince and Me is a good rom com with a royalty trope, and then of
Yeah.
course there's like the Princess Diaries, which
Mhm.
I think the second movie is the one that really has the romance come into it, and it has a lot to do with like the arranged marriage and like but that's not who she goes for so
Right.
that's a good example of one to watch. So here's the thing, what separates royalty from like billionaire romances or like rich people romances? Because is usually royalty is rich but they don't have to be rich.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think what separates them is just all the things that come along with the royalty, the monarchy, and the expectations of that, and all those um, maybe the fantasy element of the
Yeah,
castle and the things like that. So I think
yeah.
that's what makes it a little different than just billionaire.
Yeah. There's an old movie I watched about it was kind of like a comedy about a little made up country that was so broke. Like they were so broke. And so they're trying desperately to marry their monarch off to some rich woman.
That's
And I
funny.
think that is like if I wrote another one, I would probably do that. Like just trying to
Just a
find
little
like
twist.
yeah, like a female billionaire somewhere and they're just doing everything they can to get their monarch married to this rich person so that the monarch can survive.
I love
Um,
it.
but like, so there's usually a lot of contrasts in royalty. So you bring in like the fish out of water trope, right? Where you bringing the whoever's not royal into the story as a fish out of water, and then they're discovering all the things about this country,
Yeah.
and that's how you get to present it to the reader because this new person is finding out all these things.
Yes.
Um, you have like the commoner and aristocrat kind of thing, aristocracy, contrast, just different classes, maybe like
Mhm.
societal classes. But also, like you said, there's a lot of expectations for the person who's royalty that they have duties and obligations to their family, to their people that they
Yeah.
can't easily walk away from. And so all good romances require some kind of a sacrifice on somebody's part, right?
Mhm.
Like whatever the obstacle is that's keeping them apart, they need to sacrifice something to be together, to overcome that obstacle. So with the royalty trope, who's going to sacrifice? Is the royal person going to turn their back on their people and their family to be with this commoner? Or is the commoner going to sacrifice their freedom, their autonomy, their regular life, their ability to make choices for themselves, because once you step into the royal family, so many things are completely out of your control
Yes.
from that point. And that's what's important about when you're introducing the world. You really have to set up all those things that they're going to have to give up if they become part of this, the family, that they're going to be in the public eye, that they're going to have to dress a certain way, that they're going to have to, that they can't, be a competitive, um, ballroom dancer anymore, or like
Right.
they can't open a bar, or they can't, um, you know,
They
whatever.
kinda have to give up on their dream sometimes,
Yeah,
depending on how you write
exactly.
it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to do, because you really do wanna bring in the conflict. You need to have some reason, like, everybody thinks, "I would love to marry a prince," who's going to become a king someday and but, like, so many people had to give up so much. Like Grace Kelly, who had a brilliant career, as an actress and was a fashion icon. She walked away from her career as an actress to marry a real life royal.
Yeah.
And, so that is an important element to bring into it. Is just what they're going to have to sacrifice to make this work. I don't know very many stories where the royal person walks away from it for the other person.
No, for the most part, they end up both, as royalty, and that's kinda
Yeah.
how the happy ever after ends.
But in the context of, like, historical, like, monarchies, it's not a bad idea to walk away from it.
Right?
Because, like, royal families were not a good place to be in a lot of historical contexts,
Well,
and
wait. So in okay, you just talked about a forbidden loved one, a K-drama, historical K-drama where
teen
she's
defection,
pretending. Yes. Doesn't don't they walk away from that? Yeah, okay.
and
So
that's
that's
what I was
one
gonna
example
say,
where they
and
walk
I was
away from
so
the
excited. I was like, leave this horrible, terrible world behind you. Like,
right?
you don't want your children growing up to murder each other as they fight for the throne. Like, you don't want that. Who wants that? Nobody.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, you have a lot of power, but everybody's gunning for you. And
Right.
you actually don't have
Exactly.
any freedom.
Yeah.
You have to sit in your throne room and, like, make decisions for the country. You can't just go galloping off to the seaside for a vacation whenever you want to. And so, like, that there's something to be said for walking away from
Yeah.
the royal life, especially in historical stuff where things got crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. You can make it really nasty if you do that.
Yeah,
Make it so nasty and uncomfortable in the monarchy situation
yeah,
where being moved from that is like the happy after.
yes,
Don't make it a magical, rich place where you're leaving good stuff.
yeah. And I'm actually working on a fantasy right now, just kind of like on the side for fun. And one of the questions I'm trying to figure out for myself is, the main person gonna take the throne at the end?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing is a political, like, fight for the
Yeah.
monarchy, and for the good of the people. Like, the people have been suffering under the current monarchy, and, like, so, like, I have to decide, like, is this person going to take the throne and give up all this other stuff because they want to ensure that the people will have a benevolent ruler at the end? And so, like, that's a question I have to figure out. And you can kind of do that in modern times if you work at, like, I think one thing you have to decide, like, how gritty you want your story to be
Right.
in the modern world. Like, is it just a lighthearted romance where if she stays, then yeah, maybe she can't be a kindergarten teacher anymore, but she can still have charities where she takes care of
Yes.
kids and oversees their education, and, like, there's a
Yes.
happy solution to the thing that she's giving up. Or do you want it to be where, like, let's live in the real world? There's a lot of, like, political stuff going on globally that is very concerning, and if you
Yes.
were a little tiny country in the middle of, like, big powerful countries, like, That's a lot to take on as a monarch, that you have to protect your people and your nation's sovereignty from all these, um, you know, big angry powers who are duking it out, and there's a lot there on your shoulders. Um, so anyways, like, are you rom-com or are you like,
Right.
a little bit more
What are you? Yeah.
real world kind of thing? And that's gonna have a lot to do with like where you um set your character's ultimate decision.
Mhm.
And I think that's what a lot of this goes. But we should talk briefly about some of the fantasy aspects because that's what makes it so fun.
Yes.
So what
Yes.
what do people love about a royalty trope? Because I think it's the dresses, like
I was just gonna say the dresses, the balls, the
the servants.
super
So you have
yes,
maids and butlers and
yes.
drivers and, like,
Just
all
the
that sort of
castle
stuff.
itself, right?
Yes,
In
the
that
setting,
setting.
a
Yes.
quaint country,
Mhm.
enormous fireplaces, yeah, like, and also, like, I have a thing for, like, guards and security and stuff like that, like,
Yes.
protect my person, like, that kind of
Yes.
thing. I like when there's a little bit of a suspense thriller thing thrown in there where there's, like,
Mhm.
the girl's gonna be in danger and, like, he has to protect her, That's
And
why I wrote Saved by the Prince.
that's awesome. One of the scene tropes I like is when they sneak off together and leave the guards behind,
Yes,
and
and they go,
go
like,
out as
live like as normal
commoners.
people, yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, so that's one scene trope that I really like with
Yeah,
that.
there's a lot of really fun aspects of it, and I would just say before we get off of here, a fun one to watch if you're into, like, Hallmark Christmassy kinda ones is A Princess for Christmas.
Ah,
It's got Sam Heughan in it, who is, like, the, Jamie Fraser from the Outlander guy, but, like, way before he did that. But it's got so many of the things we were just talking about in it. It's got, like,
nice.
so many royalty tropes. It's just fun. My girls request that we watch it every Christmas. We haven't even watched, like, The Christmas Story or Elf or Home Alone or anything, but we have watched A Princess for Christmas
That's
already.
awesome.
Yeah. And next week, we were going to talk about,
What was it? I
matchmakers?
don't know. Yeah, Matchmakers, let's do that one.
Perfect. Right.
Great.
And between now and then, you can go and sign up for the academy and watch more classes. So the Writing Gals Academy, it's a whole library of classes. We've got almost 80 of them in there by now. And it's a monthly subscription of $9.95. And so you can just have that in your pocket to work on taking your classes at your pace. And we'll keep adding to it all the time. So you can find links to it below.
Yes.
And you can also check out the Writing Gals Facebook group. So
Yes.
come see what we've got going on over there. So I think that's it for today.
All right, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Bye.